Thank you for having me. Thank you, Rodney, for that beautiful introduction. I'm just going to start by playing a beautiful classic rock. No, I'm not. I can't play piano. So appreciate you all being here. You're all on holidays and it's having a whole day to hang out with other musicians. My God. Why would you want to do that? So musicians are a special kind of people, aren't we? We're actually psychologists. We have to be. We have to think like the child is learning something for the very first time. Not only are we teaching, we've really got to connect with them so they stay inspired for as long as they possibly can. Not just for revenue, because finding a new student sucks. Having a student that loves you and stays with you the whole time, I think that's really important. I want to take note of something here. I'm going to be really vulnerable with you guys. So look at this list, right? Diplomas, music arts coordinators, words I'd never even heard before I joined the mtasa, like pedagogy, or pedagogy, or it's pronounced so many different ways. Like the word elder conservatorium, man. Like, what the hell is that place? We're here, right? Is Kieran here yet? He's not here yet. I had the privilege of working with Kieran at the expo. You guys, you were at the expo we had a few months ago? Yeah. Who wasn't? Who did not come to the expo we had a few months ago? Did you know about it? Oh, that's not your fault then, is it? Right. Well, you're here today. Where are you from? Port Lincoln. Well done. All right. So anyone further than Port Augusta? No? You're the winner. Oh, not you? All right. You're the winner. Nice. So there's no music teachers in Port Augusta right now. They're all here. So this is going to be comedy hour. I'm not sure if you're going to learn anything at all. So then you go back up to my little piece here. It's like father of three, play some drums. There's no, I don't have the qualifications you guys do. And I'm going to tell you that up front right now. I'm not a qualified musician. I have no pieces of paper that tell me that I'm actually any bloody good. You guys have all this. So why the hell am I here? Why am I here talking to you guys? Because you guys have that. So I'm just going to talk, like Emily said it perfectly. Having the ability to just improvise is something that I see missing as well. And I'm just going to improv. I'm jamming with you guys here right now. This is me playing music. I was at Sydney yesterday and the day before, and I dropped into the Sydney Conservatorium. Who's been there? Have you seen that? That's beautiful, isn't it? They've got this big old building, it's like a castle. Then they've got this new beautiful thing next to it. 900 students go to that. How many come to the Adelaide one? Does anyone know? Rodney, you should know. How many music students are at the Adelaide Conservatorium?
Well, it depends whether you count part-timers, but probably 400.
Okay. All right, so it's a pretty big college. I had the opportunity to play at the Basement in Sydney, which is a pretty renowned venue in Sydney to play at. Has anyone been to the Basement? Yeah. I'm going to link that back a little later to a story I'll tell you. And to play at the Basement with a band, I knew no one in this band. I had no idea who these people were. It was a jam, like I'm doing now. And the feeling that I had when I was up on that stage, playing on that stage with these amazing musicians, probably going through learning at the con, just astounding. And, for a part there, I've got the recording of it, and it actually looked like I forgot how to play drums because I was so captivated by the improv and the beautifulness that was happening in front of me, because I'm just, I'm at the back of the stage. I'm just hiding behind all these cymbals, and it was a packed house. It was amazing. So I'll give you a little bit of a background on me if that's going to help, I guess, make some connections. I started playing drums, bang crash, when I was probably 7. I got my first drum kit when I was 2. It was one of those Christmas presents that the parents hope doesn't take off, and it took off. That's kind of my only 2 things I do these days is play drums, teach drums. Well, I'll put them in the one basket, and the other one is send lots of emails about drums, which is my techie stuff. So I started playing drums. I got my first drum kit at 7. I got my first lesson ever when I was 11. My next door neighbour was a treasurer of the blue light discos in the area, and they booked bands, right? And I went to the Blue Light Disco when I was 7 or 11. Actually, I was 11. And then we went back to Pizza Hut afterwards to meet with the people that were there. Scott Michelson from Neighbours was there. Brad, does anyone remember Neighbours? Yeah? All right, so Brad was there. My sister's, I'm like, oh, Brad. So I'm with the band, and I was like 11 years old, braces, face full of zits. And I'm like, man, you're a good drummer. Yeah, you're a good drummer. And he did this. I don't have a top pocket, but he did this. And he just simply did it. It was beautiful. I don't know if you've rehearsed it. He went, you can be a good drummer too if you want to have lessons. I'm like, yes, I do. I'm like, Dad, I want to have lessons. And Dad's like, long-haired lout drummer, Let's ring him up. Dad dropped me off. I had drum lessons. And the very first lesson that I had with this guy named Billy, who was still a really amazing inspiration for me in my life, he gave me 3 CDs to start with. And he said, I don't know what kind of music you like. In fact, you're 11. You probably don't even know what kind of music you like. So take these 3 CDs with you. One of them was like Pantera. Who's heard of Pantera? It's more than I expected. So, can you describe Pantera? Can you sing us some Pantera? So if I grabbed a chair and smashed it against the floor, that's Pantera. The other one he gave me was a bluesy kind of, I can't recall the album. It was a bluesy thing, trumpet. And the other one he gave me was a band called Dig. And it was has anyone heard of Dig or Directions in Groove? Yeah. Great. So that drummer in that band really captivated me when I saw him play for the very first time, which was 4 years earlier than me getting that CD. And the reason that I was, I guess, so attracted to that particular CD that my drum teacher gave me he wanted to know what kind of music appealed to me the most. So he gave me these 3 CDs, and I brought them all back, and I said, I really like this one. And it wasn't until maybe a month or so later that I made the connection when we went and saw Dig play at the Space Cabaret Theatre. My drum teacher said, hey, they're playing in town, let's go and check them out. That's what teachers should do. Teach for the sake of caring, not for the sake of teaching. So he took me to this Space Cabaret Theatre, and band was on, and I'm like, I've seen this band. This was a band that I saw when I was about 7 in the amphitheatre at the Festival Theatre. They were doing a free thing out there. And I went with my dad and I checked it out. And I didn't make that connection until much later. So for me, Dig is more of a jazz funk kind of thing. They haven't done a tour for a while. In fact, not this last visit, the visit before when I was in Sydney, probably 10 years ago. I went, I haven't been to the basement before. I want to go check this place out. What have they got on? It was a Dig 10-year reunion. So that was insane, and made some good connections with that drummer from Dig, who is currently the touring drummer for these couple of bands, Guy Sebastian, Pete Murray, the Whitlams. He's played with Ben Folds, he's played with Pink, he's on heaps of commercials, To the Moon and Back by Savage Garden. That's him on the drum kit. If Terapai was here right now, which is not, I'd love him to walk in the door. That'd be great. We'd just set up 2 drum kits and it'll be over. The thing about him, which really inspired me the most, and he always says it, he's always been open to different styles and different varieties for his own challenges. And I guess I'm going to lead into that a little later. He learned how to play music from the age of 6. So he's in Polynesia, he's playing in this band, and he was just a kid playing drums, and he just did that. And then the drummer left and he got on the drums, and that was kind of where he stayed. And he still tours. He's on a plane every second day. He's travelling somewhere, not just in Australia, but overseas. So he's a big inspiration for me. But then seeing a band play at the basement Monday night, the drummer that was in the house band was incredible. Incredible. So we got chatting to this guy, and so he's got a similar flavour and a similar vibe to what Terapai Richmond, the drummer from Dig, has. Just so I get a feel of who is actually here as well. So I know we've got one drummer. Any other drummers here? So we can just hang out and chat. All right, so we've got one drummer. But drummers are equivalent to 10 musicians. It takes 10. What I mean is it takes 10 drummers to be a musician. Maybe, I don't know. It's interesting. Bass players? Nice, well done. So you should be sitting here, and we should, yes. So, piano. Wind, trumpet, sax. Yep, all right, cool. And where do you guys teach? You teach at schools, or do you teach in your home studios? Both? Okay. Does anyone just teach at schools? Does anyone just teach at home? Anyone teaching both? Cool. Anywhere I've forgotten? It's only 2 options, isn't it? Pardon? Go to their houses? Okay. Do you do much of that? Okay. All right. Yeah. I did that for a little while, and it really got annoying because you'd walk in, and these are the kids I don't like to teach, and so I don't teach them. You walk into the house, hey, little Johnny. Little Johnny always gets picked on, doesn't he? Little Johnny, you ready for your lesson? Puts down his Xbox controller, comes to the drum kit. Before you've even finished and left, he's back on, No, not interested in that. But I really hope he has an amazing future in gaming. People have to build games. The guy that created Rockstar and Rock Band and Band Hero, he was a musician who had a passion for games. So that's broadening the horizons a lot, isn't it? It's like you've got a passion for electronics and a passion for music. Let's make that happen. Tony Hawk, skateboarding and games. For me, I like to learn how the students learn, so then I can teach them. So if you weren't at the expo, you won't. My partner Michelle, my partner in life and business, she's a whole brain practitioner. Does anyone know what that is? Whole brain practitioner through the HBDI Institute. It's basically like putting yourself on a CAT scan thing, and they plug in the probes to your head, and they can tell you what you're thinking and what your learning style is like. HBDI has developed a method over the last 200 years to take that from you in text form, so it's less invasive. When I'm thinking something, she's just like, you're thinking like a green brain. It's great to see, because I'm very not processed. I don't have notes. I'm jamming. I'm improv. That's my red side coming out. If you're a green brain profile kind of person, you're really thinking about the process, what's next. If you're a yellow brain, you're thinking vision. You're thinking, oh, I can't wait to be on that massive stage, and how am I going to feel? And it's great. And then you've got the blue brains like, but why do I need to do that? Why do I need to? I don't need to be on a stage. I'm happy just to play in my room and get really, really good. And studies show, that particular study, share the different demographics of each profession. So you've got the doctors are very, thank God, they're very process driven. They're not, oh, let's see how we go. That's not what we want, right? So thank God. But as musicians, studies show that we are red side. We are very creative. We should be creative, right? And that's what Emily was saying. Like creative, we have to, I think, this is all my own opinion, of course. You may throw chairs at me if you like, it's fine. Just give me a warning. These are my opinions, and like I said earlier, I'm not qualified to have these opinions professionally. But after 20 years of teaching and studying every single lesson that I give, studying the response that I get, is what's given me the passion and the drive and my own sense of ability to share these stories with you. Knowing that little Johnny that comes in, if he comes in for his lesson and he's got this folder and he's got one drumstick and the pages are falling out, he's probably, just on my quick analogy earlier, what do you think his learning style might be? Is it process? If it's process, he's got a folder. Can I borrow this? Thank you, darling. Can I borrow that pen? Thanks, a nice pen. I'll keep that. So this is good. Like, everything's organised. It's process. It's keeping things together. We haven't got out of hand yet, really. It's only a couple of things. You brought this folder from home? Yes. Yeah? Did anyone forget pens and paper? Are you really good at improv? No? Okay. Pens and paper, bringing stuff, going up to the desk, say, I forgot the thing. That just shows that you're not totally, there's grey areas and it's not one or the other. There's combinations, of course. If you rock up to a drum lesson, if you come to my drum lesson for the very first time, or the very third, fourth, fifth time, and you've got half a drumstick missing. You've got, some pages missing. The pages are wet. Pages haven't even been opened. The book's all creased. I'll know that you're not processed. So I'll teach you to your preferred learning style. I won't go, Johnny, you need 2 full drumsticks and you need to have your notes with the date at the top left and a margin 33 millimetres from the... But there are some students that are process. So my red brain has to go, button up the shirt, it's all process driven, because I don't want to scare him or her off with, don't worry about the process, let's just jam. He's not going to learn very much because I'm not teaching to his preferred method.
Thank you.
So learning that method of teaching, I'm also an NLP practitioner. Does anyone know what that is? Can you explain it for these people? I know what it is.
Neuro-linguistic, I forgot the last one.
Yep. Yep.
But anyway, it's sort of about coordination and how you actually different style of learning.
It's taking someone to a happy place. Yeah. It's neuro-linguistic programming. It's conveying information to a student without saying a damn thing. And it's them, what they're conveying to you without saying a thing either. So you can connect. And I've done this. There's been days, maybe you should try this right now, Rob, with your beautiful speaking voice.
No, thank you.
I've done a half-hour lesson, 4 half-hour lessons in a row where I said nothing. For the whole lesson. They had to problem solve themselves. I'm like, I would play it on the drums, and they would have to copy me. It wasn't me going, if you think of... So that helped me understand that they were it took maybe 10, 15, half the lesson for them to really go, I've got to figure this out for myself. Think about the benefits of that when they're at home practicing and I'm not there with them. They can think, all right, I can do this, I can figure it out. And out of all those 4 lessons, we had some pretty complicated things and they figured it out. So that makes me proud to know that they can problem solve themselves. And that's what good teachers, good musicians do, they problem solve. A topic that I want to talk about, let me know when I'm at my hour too, because I'll just keep going, hundreds of stories. One of my other influences, I feel like I need a chandelier and stand up in here. One of my other big influences, his name is Mark Shulman. Has anyone heard of that drummer's name? Yep, good, only the drummers. Mark he travels with a pop star called Pink. He plays one song on the tour on cello. Mark Shulman's currently touring with Cher again, or they're rehearsing for a tour. Mark Shulman's the drummer for Pink and has been for 7 years. He's also played drums and co-wrote for Foreigner, Simple Minds, but classically trained. And his love of music is phenomenal. And his passion and his drive, we booked him for a thing when he was here last. He come in with the drummer, the guitarist and the bass player. So these 3 people play with Beyonce and Jay-Z, and these are the 3 main guys. Mark Shulman's his career of being classically trained on cello when he was younger and moving into playing on... He actually holds a record for playing in front of the most amount of people ever as a drummer. From sold-out tour to sold-out tour, all those people I've just mentioned are sell-out artists, Pink in particular. So he holds a record for playing to the most amount of people ever as a drummer, more than Ringo Starr. He's a drummer for the Beatles. Sorry, I'm being very patronising. I shouldn't be doing that. But Mark went, I really like cello, but the people that loved... And what moved him to drums was Ringo. He saw Ringo on a stage or on a TV show, on the Sullivan? Ed Sullivan show. Saw him on the... girls were going crazy, this is great, he wanted to be that guy. Why don't people do that when I play cello? Why don't people just go crazy? And he loved the vibe, he loved that action and the attitude that came along with playing with rock bands. So he filled in for Guns N' Roses. Matt saw him a couple of times. So he's that kind of drummer, but classically trained. I like to call that backwards compatible, which puts the benefit in the classically trained people's chords. Because I can't play... that's my extent. Or maybe, where am I? That's it. That's all I have. So I'm not forwards compatible. Mark can play amazingly beautiful classical music on piano, on cello, on violin. He's a singer-songwriter, composer, but he's, what I'll say, backwards compatible. Does that make sense? It's not offensive, right? It's like you guys, so you guys, me, you know, there's a big wall because I'm rock and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and you guys are Pavarotti, and there's no wall. Everyone's learning music, and we're teachers because we love to teach. We love to see the excitement in the little Johnny's eyes when he gets to play Back in Black for the first time. It's just a rock beat. But when they want to get to a point of technical abilities and really the finite details in that one song, there are smaller details in every song that we can find if we want to. We can play really basic versions of the most complicated piece, and that's how you teach it, right? You don't just, or do you? I've never had a classical piano lesson. Who teaches classical piano? Rodney, where are you? He's run off. Who teaches classical piano? I just want to get a vibe, all right? Just pretend I'm your new student, sucked in. You've put a sheet here. It's from there to there, pegs, fans blowing, everything's gone crazy, but I have to read this stuff. Do you walk me through playing the whole crazy piece by piece until I've got it, or do you work on, let's get the basics, and then we come back to the start and we'll add sections? Is that kind of how it works as a classical piano teacher? I don't know. I really don't know. Is that? How do you... I guess people teach differently.
You probably take it in sections, a few bars at a time.
Okay.
And usually in a phrase.
Okay. Right. So you start with dun, 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 one finger, and then you bring in the other hand, and then the feet.
Probably not.
No?
It's always a good idea to get students to try hands together initially, and then the sight reading purpose.
Perfect. All right. So that takes me to...
Do the left hand, then the right hand.
Good. So with drummers, we use two hands. We don't get to the finger bit. It's just big stumpy hands and clumps of wood, right? But there are tiny little things that happen with drums. But when I get little Johnny to a point of he can play the whole song, then I'll find a song that's a little bit more challenging and see the frustration that he has trying to play the bass drum pattern, which is another limb. We've still got these things that are doing things, and we've got the left foot coming in. I like to see the frustration happen to the point of, all right, we can figure this out, but we've got to go back a little bit. That's anti-pedagogy, right? Pedagogy is like, you're going to learn this. Yes, tick. Now we've got to learn this. But the way I approach it is if I can get them so excited about one piece of music and then play it and they perform at workshops and shows and I really get them nervous about performing, with or without the notes, depending on their profile, the elements of being nervous, the elements of being under pressure, whether you're red brain, green brain, blue, yellow, are all the same beautiful emotions that students and performers, seasoned or not, should feel before they get up and play. My nervousness from playing, from talking, jamming with you guys right now, is I know that you guys have the skills to teach an amazing thing that I could do, but I don't feel like I need to because it's not my upbringing. If my dad loved classical music and I've listened to it a lot, I would probably be down that road. So what music's being played in your students' homes? Is it something that, Emily said it before, like the Kylie Minogue pop song is the ice block. It's the surprise, it's the, well done, you can now play a really crappy, boring song. As a performing musician that gets paid to play crappy, boring songs, you can make those crappy, boring songs really hard to play. Blame It on the Boogie by Michael Jackson. Does anyone teach that? Is that part of your normal thing? I had a couple of students who were doing a show at their school, and that was one of the songs that they had to learn. And there was two drummers. One was 7, the other was 13. Both been learning for about the same time, but one of them was a lot further ahead. And I couldn't teach them both the same thing. They were in a group with me. I couldn't teach them both the same thing. The younger kid, who'd been playing for a year, couldn't play the same as what the 13-year-old was playing for a year. And I don't know why that was. So I taught them the basic part, The young kid was excited. He was really excited to be able to play this song in time, knew when the stops are, knew when the starts are. But the older kid, he was bored. He didn't like playing the same way this younger kid was playing. I think being able to adapt to the students' want to learn in that scenario, and I know that if I was to teach the older kid some technical ability earlier, it may have done one of two things, because he wasn't a process. He was the red brain kid, and I know if I went through the process learning or teaching style with him bit by bit, he would have got it, but I would have lost him as a student, and we would have lost him. Society would have lost him as a musician. What do we do there? Like, do we want to have musicians that, like, who's seen? It's a horrible movie. Who's seen Whiplash? Sit with my wife. It's a side story, right? Sit with my girlfriend. My wife was on this side. Sit with my girlfriend. Sitting with my girlfriend, she goes, "Pete, just remember it's a movie, all right?" So there's one part of the movie where he goes, "Let me show you this paradiddle." I think he was a kid. And he just started playing a rock groove. And Michelle goes, a paradiddle is like, it's a rudiment. And Michelle goes, "It's all right. I know it's not a paradiddle, it's a rock groove." It was very, very nice. And at the end, I stood up, clapped at the end. That solo was amazing. But do we put our kids through that? For those that haven't seen the movie, it's a very... My business is called Education Through Inspiration, right? I think if there's inspiration, the education is much easier to pass on. That movie was very education through intimidation. And I don't think anyone should ever teach from the point of intimidation. I really, really don't. Does anyone disagree? Do you disagree? No. Okay. I really, really don't. A couple of conversations I've had. This talk, I'm just simply jamming. I'm coming up with all these analogies and stories that I've encountered just to share my personal point of view of my 20 years of teaching travels. Here, locally, Australia, overseas, and wherever. There's not much. I haven't been intergalactic yet. Just working on it. I forgot what I was going to go with that. I've put myself up. I heckled myself. Where was I? Yeah, before that.
We were talking about intimidation.
That's right. So I'm just making sure you're listening. I have no lollies to give out. The conversations that I've had with other music teachers in schools and outside of schools. So when I say in schools, they run a music teaching business. It's not something they do just for fun on the side. That's okay if you do that. It's totally cool. I did that for years. But I run a music education business. And one teacher that was teaching in schools to a group, questions. I had this little YouTube thing for a while. It was Ask Pete B, and they just ask questions and I give them my opinions. Really no weight in that whatsoever. I can't get my kids to. I can't get any traction from my students. How do I get them to be more engaged? Be more engaging. Send. Is it the student's fault they're not engaged, or is it the teacher's fault? Don't know. I'm just questions, right? Literally questions. If we're at a table and I'll be saying, "Hey, what do you think? Is it the teacher's fault the kid's not engaged, or is it the student's fault that they're not engaged?" It's just questions. Right? These are just thinking about things, and that's what these days are good for. These events are there to just help you think. That while I'm talking, I'm thinking. I'm going, well, is that right? Is it wrong? Should we be more intimidating in the lessons? Should we wrong, smack? Probably not. Another question that came through on that thing was, no, it wasn't a question. It was a Facebook post on Music Teachers of Australia about 3 or 4 months ago. I did a video on it. I've got a YouTube channel with some videos and podcasts and stuff. And the question, or the statement was, "I'm banning rip-offs, Velcro shoes." Anyone wearing Velcro shoes? "I'm banning Velcro shoes in my lessons. They're too distracting." So I did a video on that. It was a half-hour rant on, let's use that distraction to your ability and let's use that to teach. Has anyone got Velcro shoes? Is that people wear those things? You do? You got them on right now? Yeah? Can you just... Did everybody hear that? All right. Now throw your shoes. No. So everyone heard that. Were they both the same sound, or there was two and they were different? You'll go again. We need to mic you up. Shh. Were they the same pitch? So when you've got 5 or 6 kids in a room with... Stop it. It's distracting. Hecklers. I told you, it's going to be comedy hour. So when you've got 5 or 6 kids in a room with preferably 2 legs, that's 12 sets of sounds that you can use. So my thinking, I'd never had that opportunity. I didn't have kids that were distracting me with their shoes. But I would have done this. Line up the kids and would line them up. Who's the highest pitch? You go, who's the lowest? You go there. All right, now play this. I've just played something really awesome, right? Twinkle, twinkle. And they'd have to figure it out. And in my mind, they went out at recess and they started playing music with their shoes. Maybe my mind works differently to everybody else's. So that to me is just how I think. If someone's being distracting in a room because they're making noise, isn't that the purpose? Like, let's make that noise part of what we're doing. Like, this is another noise. It's a low tone. You've got like a high tone somewhere. Maybe it's this one. It's mid. So we can imagine these 10 kids in a room learning music. All right, high sound, low sound, and trying to utilise that. So it's using the worst case scenario of uncommitted kids just running amok in a lesson. I feel like it's like Danny DeVito and the Army movie. I can't remember the name of it. He goes in and just turns these kids around from not having any math skills or English skills, and just using what they have to learn what they need to learn. So if it's something like they can't play the flute or they can't play the drums and they can't play guitar or whatever, everybody can make music. Fortunately for drums, this is no disrespect for all the drummers in the room, drums, I think, are one of the easiest instruments to make a sound on straight away that doesn't sound like a violin. Compare the two. Let's do that. I'm going to compare the two. Has anyone got a violin here? Can you grab it? Seriously, let's do this. This is a hands-on thing. A violin, I need a violin. I don't care if it's tuned or not. We're going to do this. This is how I'm jamming right now and I'm getting the drums out. What do you call this? It's a drum roll. Shit. How am I going for time? Just throw something at me when we're ready. Don't tune it. If it's not tuned, don't tune it. Cool. If you've got a... Now, here's a personal question that I know that some people don't relate to very well. Would you let someone else play that that didn't know how to play it? No. Okay. Would you find someone that you trust that didn't know how to play it? Masako, can you play the violin? No. Great. Do you trust Masako? Can you give Masako the violin, please? Please. And come up here, but don't drop it. Don't drop it. All right, so we're going to play music. Does anyone not play drums? Okay. Come on. You're now a snare drummering person. Okay. So I'm going to count you in. And on 1, so rock, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, I just want you to hit that. Give it 1 hit, all right, on 1. And I want you to make sound on that. You put it under your neck or something. All right. So, on the 1, make a sound. I didn't count. All right, on the 1. All right. See? Backwards compatible. Let's think rock. And we're going to practice our knee slides along here a little later. With the violin. Hey, can the bow be used? Because that's... No, all right. Okay, so, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Oh, you keep going. 3, 4. 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Cool. All right, the reason I wanted the bow, because that makes it sound horrible, right? If you don't do it right. So with a drum kit, now I'm not being disrespectful to the drummers, because I am one. that's kind of all you got to do. If the bow is being used, there's a whole heap more you got to do to get the sound sounding nice. Am I on the right track? I don't play violin. All right. Thank you for nodding. It's good. I love the interaction. So my point. Thank you. Give it up. Woo. Everyone throw stuff and clap. All right. So I do this stuff in lessons. So you can imagine what happens when kids do have Velcro shoes and making noise. I'm like, cool, what's the weirdest sound you can make? Because you're tapping your pen and you're making weird sounds. Oh, I'm going to make these sounds. Great, you come here. And we play Mary Had a Little Lamb with face sounds. But they love the lessons. I know they're learning anything, but they love the lessons. And they learn to love learning because they're encouraged to use what they've got to learn. And what they may have is ADHD. Have you ever tried teaching a kid with that? Man, that's where you should put your price up, right? But does that mean you should charge less for the ones that get it really quick? Yeah. I love working with those kids with ADHD because I kind of had that stuff and have that stuff. Oh, look, a squirrel. I really do like working with those kids. I've got a student of mine. If you do jump on my website, petebarter.com, and you'll see some links to some stuff, you'll find a video of a kid named Jacob. Jacob comes to me through Variety Club. He shouldn't be alive, premature at like 1 million weeks before he was conceived. He doesn't have like a disorder, it's not like Down syndrome, but he's had, still laughing, at the earlier one or at the recent one? Jacob's a beautiful kid. He's just turned 11. He's had 3 sets of brain surgery. He died under anaesthetic during a CAT scan. I had to resuscitate, broke all his sternum. He didn't talk until he was 4, which is the same time I started, 5 or 6? No, didn't talk until he was 6, and that was about the same time I started doing lessons with him. Didn't eat until he was 4. He ate through a tube. What else has he had? Heart surgery, all this crazy, crazy stuff. He is the most passionate musician you'll ever meet. There's no problem in the world he doesn't face. You know, he shouldn't be alive. And that, to see him play is just amazing. To work with him on a weekly basis. Jacob has that ability to just love and adore music, but teaching him, I'm recording this so he will hear this later, to teach him has been the best learning experience for me. Because it's not about, and it wasn't for the first 2 years, it was not about technique. He could play, and he could play hard and fast. A music school in Adelaide called G4 Guitar School contacted me and said, hey, we're doing a thing, we need a drummer, do you have anybody? And I was sitting with Jacob, about to do a lesson with him. And there was 2 songs that he had to play. It was Hotel California and dun, 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 dun. What's that one? Thank you very much. I really wish I had something to give out. All right, so he had to play those 2 songs. And for him to play at this thing, I really, really, really needed him to be a professional drummer that was just applying that beat for those songs. No solos, no nothing. There was one rehearsal the week before, and we're all about to start, and there's like 3 or 4 guitarists and bass player and singer. And he's about to count in, he goes, oh, wait, before we start playing, I think we should determine the name of the band. Like, that's how he thinks. He's on a big stage already in his mind. And everyone just cracked up and lost the plot. And he's like, all right. I'm like, Jacob, it's not about you, bro. You're now being a professional drummer where it's never about us. We're at the back. No one cares. But they care when you get it wrong. So when he got to play this, for me, this is the broadening horizons for me. It's not just broadening. I can't teach classical, so I can't do that. But I can show them what it is. And I rely on the classical people to take them to that level. Teach for the sake of caring, not for the sake of teaching. I'm glad you're all here. You've got an amazing lineup of speakers that are going to really get into the formalities, because that's clearly not me. Yes.
I think...
no questions.
I think sometimes I feel it's my duty to suggest that students change instruments.
So, absolutely.
It's happened. I've had a piano student who was going to go to high school and he wasn't really doing very good at the piano. and I suggested he took up saxophone or an instrument like that, so
Yeah.
he could play in the band.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
And he went 5 years through high school,
Yep.
was an integral part of the band, and
Yep.
the other one was the drummer.
I had a drummer that would not play anything very well, so I suggested go and take up the triangle.
Well, he was doing
Perfect. You know, we actually, I did the same thing. The music teaching school that I run, it's called ETI, Education Through Inspiration. We teach inside of schools. We run workshops. We've had the likes of Justin Timberlake's band, Pink's band, Guy Sebastian's band, Malboy's band. They're all friends that when they're in town, they do these workshops with us. So the school's got about, at its peak, not now, but at its peak, it had 900 students and 20 educators just here in Adelaide. And it was in the various locations. And there was a switch day. The kids didn't know when switch day was. An email would go out to the teachers. There'd be like 5 or 6 teachers teaching in the one building at the one time. It'll be switch day, where the teacher would go to the next room. So if you were having guitar lessons, you now got a drum teacher. Just for that one day. It's half hour of your life. It's important. I really think it's important. I need to appreciate the fact that this is hard work. So when I start to learn something, I'm like, ugh. But then the same thing happens for teachers. Sometimes when we teach, we forget what it's like to learn. They have to learn how to learn because they're teaching kids. So, yeah. I could go on for hours. I've got workshops that go for days, so fitting stuff in for an hour is fun, and that's why I'm just jamming and I'm just spitballing ideas around. I'm going to be here for the rest of the day. I'm actually going to be talking about the new website that the MTA has launched because I'm a geek and helped out with that. Any questions? I normally do 10 minutes and then Q&A for 50. But the School of Rock. Oh, do you know what I really wanted to do? Let's just go, right, let's just watch the School of Rock for an hour. The drummer in School of Rock is also Mark Shulman, who classically trained. So the sounds that you hear in that movie is him, as well as Pepsi commercials and all that sort of stuff. So he's a paid classical cellist that plays drums. Crazy. Any other questions real quick?
How do you spell Shulman? Is it with an S?
S-C-H-U-L-M-A-N. S-C-H-U-L-M-A-N. I think what we'll do on the website is we'll have a wind-up of today. We'll make a page under resources and we'll put a wind-up and we can just sort of put some notes in. I can go back over my videos and remember what the hell I just spoke about. This podcast will be available on there so you can have a listen again. So all your amazing questions will be there for everybody to hear. Thank you very much. I appreciate it and hope you enjoy the day. Thank you. Now over to your fabulous MC.
Before we go over to your fabulous MC, there's a little question.
I've got a Hayley. Thank you very much. It's a wedge, block of cheese. Thank you guys, appreciate it.